Welcome everyone to the clash between Vishy Anand and Garry Kasparov on day 3 of Clutch Chess 2025. The legends are back and the final day, the stakes are high. Each win gets you 3 points and Vishy Anand is trailing Garry Kasparov by a total of 5 points. So a win here would get him closer to Garry, and this is the 9th overall game between them. Anand has the white pieces, takes his time to acclimatize to the position. We have a queen, knight, bishop, rook, king, bishop, rook, knight. So in a way, this position is very similar to standard chess, with the king already being on the same position, knight, bishop, bishop, and yeah, so generally this can lead to positions getting to normal chess positions, traditional chess positions very soon. Kasparov starts the clock and off we go. Vishy opens the game with pawn to b3, making space for his bishop to come out on this long diagonal. Kasparov thinks, takes his time, and now goes for the move b6. He goes for symmetry. Vishy plays his pawn to f4. A very good way for Kasparov to now play is d5, c5, and try to block the bishop with d4. But he plays his pawn to f6. And here Vishy now gets his knight to f2. And Vishy just is now controlling the e4 and g4 squares to push the pawn forward. Even maybe g4 to get the bishop out on this long diagonal. So Garry goes bishop to b7. And now Anand can capture more space in the center with c4, d4. These moves look really good. Another idea which one should mention is queen c3. To get the queen activated from the corner, because the queen on a1 and a8 are really passive pieces. He brings his knight out to c3, and maybe Vishy is angling for knight b5 to c7. e6 played here to open up the bishop's path. And now pawn comes up to e3. White brings his bishop out. Knight to f7. And bishop to b2 played. Black brings his knight out to c6. And Vishy's like, it's freezing in the room. Maybe the temperature can be increased a bit. Long castles here played. And Garry also long castles. For Anand, the very natural plan now is to attack with g4, g5, maybe even h4 in the mix. He does it. He goes pawn to g4. And his position does look very, very promising. h6 by Garry. Slightly passive move. And Vishy pushes his pawn to h4. He goes bishop to e7. And for the time being, the move g5 seems to have been stopped here. Garry comes back, and Vishy now wondering if he should go h5 here. He plays pawn to a3. And I think one of the ideas is to put the bishop on d3 in a way that knight b4 is not really a threat. So that's how he's come to the move a3. King b8, another useful move by Garry. And the bishop comes to d3. And now Anand wants to get the bishop to g6. He's pushed his pawn to d5. And Vishy gets his bishop to g6. This is getting very intense here. The knight is attacked. Rook f8 played. And maybe one can take here. Think about g5. He goes knight e2. I love this move. This move is played against the pawn coming to d4. Knight and bishop are controlling it. And bishop comes out to d6. And Vishy now goes g5. A wonderful move. H takes g5. Putting pressure on the f6 pawn. And e5 played by Gary. One of the best moves now is to take on f6 and then go knight d3. He takes, pawn takes, and now Vishy should be very careful. He goes knight to g4. This move really puts pressure on the f6 pawn and the center. But the best move now is d4 for Gary, and he finds it. What a beautiful move by Gary Kasparov. This move now gets the position closer to equality. It's not yet equal because white can potentially win a pawn here. Gary is thinking with what to recapture back. And he takes with the knight. The bishop on g6 is hanging. So knight takes knight, pawn takes. And now can you simply take this on d4? Yes, he does. Pawn takes d4. And Gary's calculating certain moves. Maybe knight e7 is possible, knight d4, rook f2. But for now, he just takes back. E takes d4, knight takes d4. Vishy picks up the pawn. And knight takes knight. And now takes the bishop. Takes it with the bishop. Notice that taking here on a3 is not a good idea. Because I take, and once you take on d4, then the rook on f8 is hanging. So that's the reason why Gary goes bishop e4, and he's essentially fighting for compensation here for the missing pawn. Vishy takes, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, and brings his bishop back to c3. So white is a pawn up. Vishy can press here, but I think Gary knows his stuff. Queen d5 played. King comes up to b2. And now bishop e5 offering a trade of bishops. He goes king a2. And I guess Gary can capture the bishop on c3. He has 40 seconds left now. Takes queen d4. Vishy has 3 minutes on the clock. Takes, rook takes. It's 3 pawns versus 4 pawns. King b2. He instantly plays a5. And now pawn to d3. The rook jumps into f2. Vishy comes to g5, but overall, black pieces are super active. It's very difficult to create something. Rook d6 with the plan of rook c6 here. And Vishy goes b4 takes, pawn takes. And now rook to e6. He goes king to b3. Rook comes into e2. And he brings his rook to c1. Rook g2, offering a trade of rooks. Gary doing this really well. Vishy avoiding the trade of rooks because then it would be just equal. King comes up to b7. b5 played, taking away squares from the king. Rook f2 played. And for Anand to create a play, he needs to somehow get to the c7 pawn. But it's not at all easy because his own c2 pawn is a weakness. Rook a2 played. Beautiful move. Threatening another check here. Rook b1. He goes rook a8. He goes rook f1. Rook comes to a2 again. And Vishy brings his rook to b1. Rook goes back to a8. Rook e5. Rook a2. Now he's trying to check from the side. We are on move 42. And a draw can be agreed only after move 60. So both the players have to keep on fighting. Gary goes rook a1, offering a trade of rooks. Rook b2, check with the other rook. c4. And now rook a2. Takes, rook takes. So he goes rook h5. Goes rook c2, rook h7, rook c1. Now both the players are speeding up because they know it's a draw. White has more space and an extra pawn. But this rook endgame is drawn. Gary going to make the move, but pausing a bit. We've reached move 50 now. Not sure about what to do. He goes for a check. King comes up. Rook goes down, back again. King to d5. And Vishy looks up at the board. He sees that they are repeating. And it is move 56. So another few moves and it should be repetition here. And there you see the players repeating. Rook f8, rook d1. And he goes rook f4 and offers a draw. Draw is agreed. Gary Kasparov holds it here. Vishy was under some chances here in this game, but was unable to convert it. That d4 move in the center was a real star move by Gary, and kudos to him for holding Vishy to a draw.